Hi friends, it is Johnny back with another video, and today it is time for another story time. This time, I'm telling you the story about the time that I got stalked all the way to my aunt's house. Fun times. So, I don't know about other cities, but I know in New York, growing up in New York, you gain like a sixth sense about these certain things, you know? You're like more aware of your surroundings, if that makes sense. Like, if you feel funny about somebody behind you, you might use like the shadows on the floor, like, oh, he's a little too close to me. Or like the reflections in the car to see like how far he is from you. You kind of pick up on things like that growing up in the city. So freshman year of high school, I went to a Catholic school. I didn't like it, but that's a story for a different day. In that school, they were very, very, very intense when it came to your studies. Like each class would give you homework, and each class's homework would be enough for like 2 or 3 classes. So by the time you look at it, you're not going to bed till like 3 o'clock in the morning to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go to school. Maybe even 5:30 in the morning, depending on like how far you are from the school. And to have to do all that homework each night, I needed 2 bags. I had my backpack, and then I had a tote bag that I would carry extra books in. Plus I had my lunch bag, so I had 3 bags that I would carry around with. A full backpack of textbooks, a full tote of a couple textbooks, and the rest of my like notebooks, and then my lunch bag. 3 bags for a freshman. I was like 13 at the time. Does that make sense to you? But I'm not gonna sit there and harp on the fact that these schools shouldn't be giving that much homework to these kids, because that doesn't give them any, you know, freedom to do anything other than homework. And then you go to school to do more work, but either way. So my freshman year of high school, I had a little more freedom than I usually had growing up. So I was able to like walk places by myself. Like I would get out of school and I would go to different places. Depending on the day, I would either like go to my dad's job, which was just like a couple blocks away, or I would go to my mom's job, which was further away, or I would go to like my aunt's house, which was about the same distance as my mom's job. Those are like the primary 3 places that I would go to like after school, so I could just like start my homework. Now one day I decided I was gonna go to my aunt's house. I had let my parents know. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Dicky's house, it's fine. And they're like, okay, no, not a problem, be careful. I'm like, okay. So I leave school, and as I'm walking, I got probably like 3 or 4 blocks in, I kind of got a weird feeling, like, you know, like a tingle on the back of your neck, like when you feel like somebody's watching you. So I had that feeling. And so I'm like, okay, there's something weird going on. So I'm like looking around me, and I notice like I look to the side, like looking like I'm just like looking across the street. And as I'm looking that way, I'm looking at the reflections of the car. And I see a guy's like a little ways behind me, but he's like walking kind of funny. Like it looks like he's like watching me. So I'm like, okay, maybe that's just my mind, you know, maybe my mind's just playing tricks on me. Maybe I'm just like overreacting. Maybe we're just like walking in the same direction. So when things like that happen, you test it. So one of the first few tests that I did was I crossed the street. So I crossed the street, and as I crossed the street, the guy crossed the street, like a few seconds behind me. So I was like, okay, that could be a coincidence. So I crossed back to the other side that I originally was on, and the guy crossed back with me. So I was like, oh, he's following me. Okay. So I kept walking, and I like picked up the pace a little bit, and I noticed when I picked up the pace, he picked up the pace. I'm like, he's definitely following me. And so I'm there a little freaked out, because I'm like, oh god, why is he following me? Like, does he think I have something valuable? These are just books. Or does he just see a little chubby kid with a backpack and think, easy meat? One of the two. From where I was at that point, all I really had to do was keep going straight for a while, and then eventually I was gonna have to make a left. Instead, at one point I was like, okay, I gotta test this, I gotta be like 100% if this guy's following me or not. It seems like it, but that could have all been a coincidence. So I made a right, and the guy made the right. Then I made the left, and the guy made the same left. Then I made another left to go back to like the street that I was originally on. He made the same left. Then I made the right to continue down the street that I was originally going down. And when I made that right to go down, he did the same thing. And I was like, oh, he's 100% following me at this point. So normally when I would get to her building, she'd already be downstairs waiting for her granddaughter to get out of school. Like the bus would come and drop her off. So normally I would get there and we'd wait all of like 5 minutes for the school bus to be there. So I was getting a little closer to her building by that point. I was probably like 3 blocks before the turn to get to the like street. And then once I got to the street, it was just like a straight shot, and then the building would be on my right side when I got there. So I was like 3 blocks before the turn. I call her, I'm like, Titi, are you downstairs? And she's like, yeah, why? And I'm like, because I have a guy following me. And I'm like, I'm whispering it because the guy's like not too far behind me, but far enough that he wouldn't hear if I was like talking on the phone, like what I was saying. Unless I was like, are you there? Like, then he would hear obviously, but I'm like, are you there? Yeah, no, there's a guy following me. And she's like, what? Where? I'm like, I'll be there in a few minutes. And she's like, all right, I'll be downstairs, not a problem. And so I like pick up the pace because I'm like, this guy, I don't trust this guy. He had picked up the pace already, and I was like, okay, I gotta pick up the pace too. So I picked up my pace a little more. At this point, I'm just a chubby little kid jogging my way to my aunt's house. I get to the turn, I cross over the Metro North. To give you a hint of like where I was, I'm not gonna say exactly where I was. I had to cross over the Metro North. So once I crossed over there, that's when I would make the left turn. So I crossed over the Metro North, and then I made my left. And I was like, I'm almost there. I see her building in the distance. So I'm like picking up the pace a little more. I'm like, okay, I got this. And he sees that, and he starts picking up the pace too. I'm like seeing it from the reflections of the car. And I'm like, why has nobody noticed this but me? And so I see my aunt in the distance, and she sees me just like, with my like tote bag just like swinging, hitting me. I'm like, I don't care. So I get there, I'm like huffing and puffing. I'm like, and she's like, Bop, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, that's the guy. And like, I like, and she looks over and she sees the guy, and the guy has stopped walking entirely. He was just kind of looking in our direction and just kind of stood staring there for a minute. And like, again, it could have been coincidence. It could have been. Until that point. Like, hey, maybe he got lost or something along the way and he ended up making the same wrong turns that I intentionally made. I could chalk that up to really weird happenstance. But the fact that he stopped when I got to my aunt and he just stood staring at us for a bit before he turned back around and walked back the way that we had come from, that tells me that he was planning something. That tells me that he was in fact following me. And even now, like, I still get some goosebumps about it because I'm like, what was he planning? Like, I wasn't like, I believe last month's story time I talked about when my dog got kidnapped. Like, I was a lot older at that point, you know what I mean? Like, I could handle myself a little more compared to like little 13-year-old Johnny who still had hope for the world. Like, that day I was like, I think that was like one of the first times that I truly felt like somebody had ill intent for me. Other than, you know, the nuns in my old Catholic school. That's a different story. They didn't like me. I asked too many questions and they don't like that. But yeah, no, that was the time that I got followed to my aunt's house by a creepy stalker man. I was a bit more vigilant after that day, and I can honestly say I have never seen that guy before, and I had never seen that guy again after that. So I don't know what made him like choose me as a target, and on top of that, I never really took the same path. Like, it's not like I'm like, oh, on Mondays and Tuesdays I go to Dad's job, and then on Wednesday I go to my aunt's house, and then on Thursdays and Fridays I go to my mom's job. Like, it wasn't one of those. It was just like, I'm gonna go here today, I'm gonna go there today. It was like completely random. I didn't plan anything. It's not like he could map out my thing and just like plan like, okay, he's gonna be here on Thursday, you know. It wasn't one of those. Like, it was completely random. So I really don't know. I don't know why he chose me that day. I don't know what was gonna happen. Was he just gonna mug me? I was a kid, so was he gonna like kidnap me? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. And it's still one of those things that kind of I think about sometimes. I'm like, what was gonna happen? But yeah, that was the time that I got followed by a creepy stalker guy. Yeah, and no funny joke, no haha about that. No, that's just a thing from my past that happened. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this story because I kind of enjoyed telling it. Like, it was a bit cathartic to talk about it because I don't really talk about it much. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and bing bong the ding dong down below to be alerted when I make a new video. And until next time, maybe go check out some of my other stuff. I have some more story time, some fever dreams, some Florida men, some randomness, some let's plays. I have a little something for everybody. And while you're at it, why not go share one of your favorite videos of mine with your friends? We could always use more friends on the channel. And until next time, bye! It still bothers me that I don't know what would have happened.